Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vashari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachad Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, warm welcome to all of you dear devotees to today's session. We're continuing reading chapter 1, which is setting the context or the scene for the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita. So text number 40. Adharma bhava dharma bhavat Krishna padusyanti kulashriyaha shriyeshu dushtashu varsneya jayate vanasankaraha. Word for word synonyms. Adharma, irreligion. Abhibhavat, having become predominant. Krishna or Krishna. Padusyanti, become polluted. Kulashriyaha, family ladies. Shrisu, by the womanhood. Dushsasu, being so polluted. Vasneya, or descendant of Vrishni. Jayate, comes into being. Vanasankaraha, unwanted progeny. Translation. When irreligion is prominent in the family of Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. The Varnashram religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Chanakya Pandit, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus the chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varna Ashram system. On the failure of such Varna Ashram dharma, naturally the women become free to act and mix with men. and thus adultery is indulged in at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. The verse again, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. So we are now in this chapter hearing Arjuna's reasons for not fighting. We understand from our previous readings that Arjuna, being a pure devotee of the Lord, he can actually not fall under illusion. But by the will of Krishna, Arjuna was put into illusion. And put into illusion means one's intelligence becomes contaminated. In the material world, the conditioned living entities, their intelligence is polluted. As we read from the Bhagavad Gita later on, first we have the soul, and then we have the intelligence, and then we have the mind, and then we have the senses. When intelligence is pure, then the living entity can live a life of dharma and can be happy and peaceful. But when intelligence is impure, one does not know what is truth, what is not truth. One does not know what is dharma, what is adharma. One does not know what is right and what is not right. So Arjuna is giving different reasons for not fighting. In text 28 to 30, he gives his first reason, compassion for relatives and the resultant bodily symptoms. That the first principle of Dharma is compassion. And that compassion should be applied universally to all types of worthy persons. So Arjuna says, if we kill grandfathers, parents, family members, people that are close to one, where is the compassion then? So the first reason he gives, and we must remember that Arjuna was being trained in the principles of Dharma. So all of the reasons he gives, in one sense, are not whimsical reasons, but they are based on the principles of Dharma. But we know from reading Shastra, sometimes there are higher and lower principles of Dharma. And any person who is not of a pure intelligence, different dharmic principles can all become totally confusing. One can apply the wrong dharmic principle in the wrong context, in the wrong place. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. Then he gives his second reason in text 31 to 35. If the purpose of life is to be happy, how can there be happiness if we kill our family members? Because happiness comes not by enjoying alone, but happiness comes by the association of family members. Third reason he gives, fear of sinful reactions. When one engages in adharmic activities like killing one's guru, one's grandfather, one's family members, one's brothers, and so on, then there will definitely be sinful reactions. So Arjuna says, I'm afraid of killing because of sinful reactions. So he gives his third reason. And now we come to the section where he gives the fourth reason in text number 39 to 43, and text number 40 is all part of the 6 stages of that reason. And that is the harmful effect of destroying family tradition. On face value, if we examine Arjuna's reasons, we see they can be quite compelling reasons, and all based on Dharma Shastra. And a person who is not well versed will think, yes, Arjuna is giving some very compelling reasons not to fight. And maybe he should not fight. And some people, when they encounter Krishna starting to encourage him to fight, they become perplexed and confused. But all will be revealed. So there's a 6-stage step in the degradation of family tradition. First is the elderly are killed, like in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. There were many, many elderly members of the family there. And what is the function of the elderly? The elderly, they ensure that the family traditions are upheld. All that is necessary, and that will be spoken about in subsequent verses. And when these family traditions are not upheld, then women become polluted. When women become polluted, what do we get? Unwanted population. And when there's unwanted population, what do we get? Hellish life. And then culture is destroyed. So these are the various stages. Kulashaya, destruction of the dynasty. Panasyanti kula dharmaha, family tradition. Stop. Adharma adbhi bhavati, religion increases. Padushyanti kula shriyaha, women become polluted. And then vana sankara, unwanted progeny by mixture of castes. And you see, this word vana sankara is used again in text number 42. So there's some significance of it. Now, before we go into the actual reasons, I just want to speak a bit more about Arjuna. So in life, all of us are faced with difficult decisions. And we always want to make the right decision. We want to make the right decisions based on the proper principles of Dharma. But as I've said previously, sometimes there may be conflicting principles of Dharma. And one becomes confused how to apply the correct principles of Dharma. And what is the solution in such difficult situations? Actually, it is said there is only one solution. One has to search within one's heart. But when we search within our heart, we have to be sure that the heart is clean, that the heart is clear. Otherwise, if the heart is not clean, if the heart is not clear, then when we search within the heart, what is the only thing we will find within the heart? The dirty things in the heart. And when there's dirty things in the heart, what happens? Just like if you have a clear glass of water, everything is very clear, you can see. But if there's mud, you can't see. So if one's heart is not clean, then we will come to the wrong conclusion. In the Bhagavatam, in the second canto, second chapter, verse 13, there's the phrase, Sujhati Dihi, purified intelligence. Only one who is of purified intelligence can make proper decisions in life. So when our heart is clean, then automatically it will be according to the desire of Krishna. In this verse, or this verse in the Bhagavatam, there's a term called Hari Hardam. Hari Hardam means understanding the intention of Krishna. The ultimate religious principle is the desire of Krishna. Because Krishna is the source of all dharma. So if in any situation we want to know what is the correct dharma, what is the right decision, then we should be in the position of Hare Ardham, understanding the intention of Krishna. And this is the only way we can understand the intention of Krishna is through bhakti. Only through bhakti can we know the heart of Krishna. What will please Krishna, what will not please Krishna. So we have to conscientiously practice devotional service again and again and again and again till our hearts become clean. Only then in this difficult situation will we know that we are making the right decision. Now someone may ask the question, okay, I put my hands up. I know if I'm honest, there's still many dirty things in my heart. There are many unwanted things in the heart. And if I look within my heart, I know my heart is not clean, which means there's impure intelligence, which means I know I cannot make the right decisions based on the true principles of Dharma. So what do I do? What do I do? How do I know I can make the right decisions? So the Shastras are very clear about what one should do in such a situation. If your heart is not clean, your heart cannot know what is Hare Ardham, the intention of Krishna. You go to that person whose heart is clean, who, because of the purity of their heart, understands the intention of Krishna. They can tell you, okay, this is the decision you need to make. This would be Krishna's intention. So you make that decision. This means going to Guru and Sadhu. That's why Guru and Sadhus are so important. That's why Srila Rupa Goswami, in the very first principle of the 64 principles of Bhakti Yoga, he mentions this, Guru Pad Ashraya and Sadhu Vartmanam. One needs to go to Guru and Sadhu. And when one acts according to instructions of Guru and Sadhu, one will be acting according to the intentions of Krishna. And that's what bhakti means. That's what devotional service means. So here we see Arjuna being under illusion being under Maya, means his intelligence was not pure. His intelligence was covered. So although he's giving so many compelling reasons why he should not fight, all of those decisions are tainted. And therefore, the defining moment for Arjuna comes when he surrenders to Krishna. He says, now I am confused about my duty. Please become my spiritual master and instruct me. So this is a very, very important principle in spiritual life. In the Guru Vandana prayers, the prayers to the spiritual master, who Srila Prabhupada taught all of the disciples in ISKCON to recite every day, in stanzas 2 and 3, a very important stanzas. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koripa Akya Arana Koriyo Mane Asha Shri Guru Charana Rate Prati Ese Utama Gati Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asha Chakudana Dilo Jay Janme Janme Prabhu Se Devagyan Ride Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Veda Gai Jahara Charito. So there he said, Narottam Das Thakur is singing, my only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth, Shri Guru's lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and he fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prem emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. So here we see the beautiful words of Sri Narottam Das Thakur, saying that surrender means I surrender my intelligence to Krishna. Knowing that I am of impure intelligence, I surrender to the representative of Krishna, the Guru. And the words emanating from his lotus mouth is what purifies my consciousness, what purifies my heart. Actually, you can go onto the internet. Srila Prabhupada spoke on this verse. Very interesting lecture and speech on 28th of July 1973 in London. If we had time, we could have played it, but you can go on, it's on the net. 28th of July 1973, London. Srila Prabhupada spoke. And in that verse, Prabhupada speaks about the importance of chastity. How in Vedic culture, the most important quality of women is chastity. And the position of women in Vedic culture is very, very important, fundamentally important. And here, that position is being described. Women are mothers. Every citizen in this world has come from some mother. The population is made up of children who have come from mothers. When women are chaste, the population that is born from such women is a good population. Prabhupada explains the sequence in these verses. He said, for there to be peace and happiness in society, there has to be good population. I think many of us have experience in today's Kali Yuga. What is the effect of bad population? They harass people. They create disturbance. They create noise. So many uncomfortable situations, disturbance of the peace is created by unwanted population. So when there's unwanted population, there can never be peace in society. And the term for unwanted population is Vana Sankara. And how does Vana Sankara arise? When women are not protected. When women are not protected, they lose their chastity. And Prabhupada says, why they lose their chastity? His Holiness Bhakti Brihad Bhagavat Swami always says, the problem in society is not with women. The problem in society is unscrupulous men. So Vedic culture means women are always protected. In their youth, they are protected by the father. In their middle age, they are protected by the husband. And normally in Vedic culture, men normally die before the women, or men take sannyas and they go dedicate their life to spiritual life. In such a situation, the women are protected by their elder son. So in all stages of life, women are protected. And Prabhupada in the purport says, Vedic culture means the innocent. The innocent are protected. Vedic culture means protecting children, protecting women, protecting the cows, protecting the brahmanas, and protecting the elderly. When all 5 sections of people are protected, then there's peace. And we see in Kali Yuga, children are not protected. Women are not protected. Cows are not protected. The brahmanas are not protected. And the elderly are just put in care homes and not really protected. So what can we expect in Kali Yuga? But problems. There's just problems in Kali Yuga. So Arjuna is saying here, if all of these men on this battlefield, there are fathers here, there are grandfathers here, there are sons here. The sons protect their elderly mothers. The husbands protect their wives. And the elderly, they also protect their daughters. And they protect the religious principles by making sure that the religious principles are always conducted. And in this way, women remain chaste. So Arjuna's argument is, if the sons are killed on the battlefield, if the husbands are killed on the battlefield, if the elderly men are killed on the battlefield, who's going to be there to protect women? And if the women are not protected, the net result is going to be Vana Sankara. So very compelling argument Arjuna is giving in this series of verses. And yeah, there's many points we can discuss, but there's 8:30. I think we'd rather stop here. And we'll take any questions, comments, or reflections that anyone may have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Mataji.
So, reflecting on Arjuna's words, he's almost setting out why they have to fight, or he has to fight, because he's saying the elders are responsible for protecting the women. Yet Draupadi was brought in front of all the elders, and nobody protected her. She was brought in front for the king and Bhishma Dev and all the elders. So, she wasn't protected.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't able to protect her or willing to protect her.
Yes, that will be Krishna's point previously. Arjuna's main duty as a Kshatriya is to protect Dharma. On the opposing side are the forces of Adharma. So Arjuna, you should fight and do your duty. So that's Krishna's point the Lord's point that we hear later on. But because Arjuna's intelligence had become contaminated, impure, he mixed up all the various dharmas. And although he's quoting dharmas here, he's got it all mixed up. So what you say is true, Jayshree Mataji. Arjuna should be fighting, although he's giving some reasons for not fighting, which appear compelling. And we come back to this point about decisions. Such decisions can only be made with a clean, pure heart. Therefore, it is so important in society, at least in our ISKCON society, that all of the leaders should be very spiritually pure. Anyone in a position of leadership should be spiritually pure. In fact, in one sense, many of us are leaders. Mothers are leaders, fathers are leaders, teachers are leaders, managers are leaders, and gurus are leaders. So if anyone takes on, therefore, King Rishabdev says, no one should become a parent, a teacher, or a guru unless they can liberate the dependence from the cycle of birth and death. Meaning, we have to become of pure intelligence and give proper directions when in such a position. I digressed a bit, Jayshree Mataji, but did I answer your question? Or
It wasn't really a question. It was just, it was, that's what occurred to me when Arjuna is saying all these things, and they're true. If women aren't protected, I'm not sure I agree with that. They're particularly less intelligent, but that's only my opinion. But I agree with Maharaj, who says that the problem, especially now, is unscrupulous men.
Yes.
Women are exploited extremely.
Yeah. If you go and listen to this lecture that Prabhupada gives, he also clarifies in that verse, in that lecture, what he means when he quotes the verse by Chanakya Pandit about women and politicians cannot be trusted and of being less intelligent. Prabhupada says he's talking about ordinary women of spiritual culture. That does not apply. And then Prabhupada also gives some very nice stories he gives in the lectures about chastity, unscrupulous men. There's one nice story there about Ramanuja Acharya and one unscrupulous man trying to take advantage. Thank you. Thank you for that comment.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments? Does everyone agree? So there's a comment from Surabhi. Just a question of practice of the principle. Hare Krishna, where does it go? Just a question on the practice of Niyoga, when chastity is crucial and important. Yes, what is your particular question in that regard on the principle of Niyoga, Mataji? Do you want to unmute and maybe clarify a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. And I just wanted to ask, Niyoga was practiced in those days.
Yes.
And why didn't they think about chastity of womanhood when it was actually practiced, put into practice? So just an ignorant question from my side. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, the principle of Niyoga was applied, Chitrangat, the wife, and Vyasadeva had practiced it, and then also Queen Kunti, in one sense, practiced the principle of Niyoga.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a class some weeks ago on all of the requirements for Niyoga to be practiced.
All right.
There were 5 principles. There should be no lust involved. I can't remember all of the principles, but there were some very, very strict principles.
Mm-hmm.
And if you examine those principles, Mataji, you will see that in one sense, or in a strong sense, they do not work against the principle of chastity. they actually align with the principles of chastity. So maybe I'll pick up that slide from the previous class and I'll share it on the forum.
Thank you so much.
And then you can see by just by looking at those principles why they keep chastity intact even when one is engaged in the principle of niyoga.
Okay. I think a very high level of intelligence is required to understand all this. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Yes.
Yes, but Prabhupada's mercy, we can get some hints.
Hare
Hema Mataji, yeah, Hare Krishna. You got another point to make, Mataji, or no? Okay. Hema Mataji, thank you for thought-provoking class. Let's see if there's any other questions on the chat. Okay, let me just bring it. It's easier to read like that. Okay, this doesn't seem to be any other questions. So maybe we'll stop here. If there's no other questions and reflections, thank you very much for your attendance. All glories to your service. We will finish by reciting Vaishnava pranams. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, because they are just like desire trees and are full of compassion for all of the conditioned souls. Panchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyacha Patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Vaishnavrinda ki
Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Hare Bol.
Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna